Peace and welcome to another episode of the Digital Recipe Podcast, where we discuss albums and what they mean to us. I'm your host, DJ Atlas, and on today's episode, we have my really good friend, Amber Jones, or as I know her, DJ Lovebaby. Hope you enjoy. But young Theodore, or young Theodore, or young Theodore. So, let's start off with the album. What album are we reviewing today?
Common B.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. I think that's a great choice. I have some memories from B. I know that you have memories from B because you wouldn't have chose the album if you didn't. So let's get into it. So as a whole, what makes this album stand out as an amazing body of work?
So B is probably the album that really made me fall in love with hip hop, because prior to that I was more into like R&B, and I was a casual hip hop listener. Like I would, like certain songs, singles that came on the radio, stuff like that. Listen to music with my family, my cousins. Those were kind of like my associations with hip hop. But B, I just remember when I first played the album, even like the kind of like rollout and the build up to the album. I remember Common was on Chappelle's show, and him and Ye, and I think John Legend was with them too, maybe.
Was that the kitchen? When they was in the kitchen? Were they in the kitchen?
Were they in the kitchen? I feel like, so one of them, I remember they were like, was on like a roof or something. And then another one, they might have been on a tour bus. But yeah, I remember that performance, and just being like, this was really dope. Like, this just feels so pure.
Right.
And so when the album came out, I went to buy it. And yeah, I just remember when I first played it and listened to it all the way through, and just the fact that the sequencing was so intentional, the transitions were so seamless. It had a message. And it sounded good. It just sounded good. It felt good. Yeah, so this album definitely opened my eyes to how just like beautiful and soulful and heartfelt hip hop could be. And it made me like want to dig deeper. So yeah.
All right. So like I remember, I think the first single on that album was The Corner.
Yes.
The first single was it was The Corner, and I remember hearing The Corner. I don't remember where I was when I first heard The Corner, but I do remember that beat was just so amazing. I can hear it. I can hear it now, and I don't even have headphones on, but like that beat was so amazing. I remember freestyling to that beat with my friends for so many, like it was in the rotation of beats to exercise, as far as, exercising your lyrical muscle. Do you remember where you were when you first heard that album?
So I remember when The Corner, the video premiered on 106 in Park. So
let's age ourselves. Yes. Let's age ourselves. I love it.
Yes, I remember when the video premiered on 106 in Park. And I was just like, this is just like so moody, and I felt like the chills, like I was in Chicago.
Come on.
But yeah, so I remember watching that video premiere, and I also remember, like I said, when I purchased the album, and back when you had to like go to the store and purchase your albums, I'm pretty sure I went to Best Buy downtown, if I'm not mistaken, and bought the album.
That mic is picking up.
Oh, every time I do, sorry.
It's all good. It's all good.
But yeah, I remember I went to Best Buy, bought the album. I might have brought, I'm trying to remember what was out at that time. Like, did I buy something else at the same time?
Mhm.
But I remember bringing it home. I remember unwrapping it and like fighting with the plastic.
With the plastic, because boy, you almost had to rip that off with your teeth.
That, like, these kids will never appreciate how hard it was to listen
to get to an
music.
album, like for real.
Something you really just couldn't wait to listen to.
Right.
You had to like fight with the plastic, and
you had to get the right piece
sticker.
to and I'm looking at it right now. I'm glad
I still got some of the sticker on this one.
So for the people that are listening to this podcast, that are
Did you hear that sticker come off? Yeah.
Right. So
you kids will never know that.
Right. So the people that's listening to the podcast, Amber brought the actual CD with her. So she has the CD with her, which is it's Amber. That's what I'm so glad that you did that. And when I seen you at the door when we came in, I just was like, yo, you brought the CD with you. That's so dope. But yeah, that fight with the like trying to get just a good little angle where you could rip the album, like where you could rip the plastic off of an album. And yeah, that's pretty dope.
Then you still got to fight with the sticker. And yeah, man.
So wasn't it the plastic around the album, and then once you got that off, then it was like a sticker or something that held the album together. Yeah, it held the case, the jewel case. That's crazy. Yeah, that's crazy.
So, and then I would get OCD with it sometimes and try to like get every piece of the sticker off. There was always some remnants left, but yeah, just that feeling of opening the album, you know, looking at the cover art, opening the booklet, reading the credits, reading the thank yous, like looking at the photos, that whole experience, like this was, you know, if I had known back then that this feeling and this experience wouldn't last forever, I would have cherished it even more. Like I did cherish it,
right? But
I probably would have savored it even more if I knew like that we were getting away from this, and that this wouldn't be like this anymore. So yeah, I remember, you know, just listening to the album, front to back, and then again, and then again.
Right. Let me ask you. So, B came out in 2005. Now you can share this if you want. What was your age? How old were you?
When B came out, I had to be 14. Because my birthday is at the end of the year. So I had to be 14 when B came out.
Are we that far apart in age?
My baby.
Yo, we are really that far apart in age. I think I was... Let's move on to the next question. Let's move on to the next question because, wow, I was not 14. I was not 14. I was older than 14. But I do remember because, so Travis and I, if you ask Travis knows that 2005 is the year that I talk about all the time. Like how a lot of people now are glorifying like 90s R&B. I specifically glorify 2005 just as an entire year of music and experience and what I was going through in that time. 2005 was my last year of high school, but my decision that it was my last year of high school because I quit. And it was that summer, Late Registration came out, B came out, and a list of other music that I listened to and that helped me kind of hold it together emotionally. B is definitely one of those, like, it's one of those albums that helped me, you know, that helped me that year.
Yes.
So kind of digging into your senses, do you remember what you were feeling and experiencing during that moment of the introduction of the album? And can you remember specific details like the room, the people, the smells, the anything, like any sense memory that comes to mind when thinking about B?
Um, Honestly, like music was how I escaped. So I more so like would immerse myself in the world or whatever I was listening to. So normally when I had a CD player, I must have gotten it one of, the Christmases. So I had a CD player and I had this little like janky shelf that was drilled into my wall like above my hamper was. And so I would, play my CDs on that CD player and little speakers that were there. And I would normally sit on the floor of my room on the carpet and like, be looking at the booklet while I'm listening to the music, especially if it was like my first listen of something. And so I just remember like when B started, it's like doom 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 doom, and like that. Yes, that music and just like being like, what am I about to hear? And then dun 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 dun. Like that intro was so long.
That intro was crazy.
But the payoff was so crazy.
Yes.
Like, what Common said, on that particular track. It was beautiful. It was poetry.
Absolutely.
And to me, it just like encapsulates what that era was. Like, I wish I was outside. I wasn't quite outside.
Right.
During that particular time, but just the warmth of that era, like really the cover of the album perfectly captures like the warmth, the color palette, the essence of what that era was, at least for me. Like I know niggas was in like white tees and cranking that and all of that stuff, but I was like, okay, if I'm not gonna do that,
right,
what's out there in the world for me? And I just found just like a niche of hip hop that was like, there were people who were like those classic hip hop artists that were keeping the genre alive,
right,
and then there were people that were kind of going through transitions with the industry, trying to find their way as it's changing. And then there were people who were underground that were just starting to bubble up from beneath the surface. So this like immediately precedes just this influx of, new artists that are still connected to the core and the essence. Many of them signed to these like artist labels. So navigating the major and then the major that has the deal with the artist, and so you got to go through like 20 people to get anything released. So that kind of brought in the mixtape era because motherfuckers got tired of waiting. But yeah, it was a very pure time, and for me, it was an escape. It was another world that I can go into and just, be.
That was wonderful. That was wonderful how you put that together. I like it. So as far as the era that you were talking about, I do remember, of course, like the really big white T-shirts and the big polos and the fashion of the popular was baggy, well, at least especially in Baltimore, baggy jeans. But in Baltimore, it was the big long capris with like the shell toe Adidas and the polos with the fitted hats, and the fitted hats had to match it. So it was a mixture of a lot of, it was a mixture of a lot of like,
figure out what they were.
Right. Like it was a mixture of a lot of like Southern culture, of the colorful matching, era, but then also that was also the era of Def Poetry Jam. So I feel like this was the the standout of that era of like the deaf poetry jam, the spoken word poets, and the backpack rappers. It was also the backpack rapper era as well. So I just wanted to say that because I remember. And it's crazy that I'm sitting here listening to you talk about the CD player and the boombox and sitting on the floor. So Travis and it's funny because a lot of musical stories between '05 to I would say like 2011, 2012, Travis is he's a main character in my, in my musical journey because that's my friend, that's my brother. But sitting on the floor of his house with a boombox, but it was one of those, it was from Brookstone. It was one of those Brookstone ones, so it was really nice, and it was a little tweeter and a subwoofer on, the two things, and it was a CD player and a radio. So
radio.
When it was like the combination, when we listened to B, I think that we had B. So we still had CD players, but there was also the introduction of affordable MP3 players.
Right.
So once we listened to it together on the boombox, we, of course, like I burned it. Like let me burn that from you.
Get your copy.
Yeah, let me get that. Let me burn that. And he would burn CDs that I buy, and we would put it on the MP3 player. So together we would listen to it on the CD, but separately if I was going to work, it was in rotation. It was so amazing. It was such an amazing album. It still is an amazing album. So now is, I would say, like the difficult part, because now you have to be specific. So if you could pick one song, which is, I'm so sorry, but if you could pick one song from the album that sums up the entire album, which song would that be?
Besides B.
Right, besides B.
That's tricky for me because
keep going.
It depends on how you view the album, right?
Right.
So for me, I feel like Love Is, which just so happens to be, in the middle of all the tracks on the album. I don't think that was by happenstance. To me, it perfectly sandwiches and kind of encapsulates what the album is and what it feels like. Because, he's not just talking about romantic love in this album. And it really feels like it's a love letter to Chicago.
Yes.
And it's him kind of just taking a step back and observing it as if like through a camera's lens, just like this city that he grew up in that, in so many ways shaped the person that he became. And, it's him and Kanye working on it, two people from Chicago who are like, very much, influenced by the experience of growing up in this city and the various facets of what it means to be in Chicago. Like, these days people associate Chicago with a very specific, narrow image.
Absolutely.
But Chicago was also a city that had a lot of significance in like the Black Power movement and, Black folk taking their agency and reclaiming what, liberation and freedom looked like for them. Also a city where there was a lot of creativity and a lot of people that contributed to culture, to Black culture. The Bulls, Chicago,
For sure.
And so it just, there were so many different facets of what it means, and including the streets. And, in some ways Chicago played a big role in street culture as well. So
For sure.
This album did such a great job of weaving together these different aspects. And it wasn't Good Times based in Chicago too? Like, what was it? Caprini Green,
That's
the
Chicago.
projects. Yeah.
Yeah, that's
So
Chicago.
that was also, based in Chicago. So I just feel like this particular song, Love Is, but the album overall just does a great job of painting this broad picture of what it was like, I guess, for Common to grow up in this city and, the different experiences he had and the people that were part of it. So.
For sure. I think there was like an MTV like blurb and when we used to watch MTV and we had to tune in for some of the small pockets of like knowledge that MTV and BET would show. There was a particular interview with Lupe because that's another artist that emerged from Chicago during that time. And he said that in his home there was a bookshelf with the National Geographics and other books that were facing the window. So when he would stand in the middle, he had all of this knowledge and information on this side of the wall. And then to the other side was the window of, like turmoil and crisis and things that were happening right outside his home. So you bringing up the duality of Chicago is it just reminded me of that interview and what he was saying. So and he's from Chicago, so that was pretty cool that you brought that up. Let's see. So the one song, again, repeat the song. I do apologize.
I went with Love Is, but it was tricky because I could have gone with a few, but Love Is, I would say, probably captures everything.
For sure. I think I know this is before we move on to the next question, going back to talking about the intro with the sound of the actual bass.
Right.
And it not sounding like a synthesized bass, but somebody actually playing the bass and then adding synthesized sounds around that bass.
Right.
There's a part where Common, like the beat is playing and he goes, yes. And I just imagine that was just like a sound check and a mic check instead of saying, hey, turn my headphones up and such and such. He just was like, yes. And you can, if you really, really listen, you can kind of hear a small like conversation between him and like the engineer, but it's really like, you really have to like, you really got to like pinch your ears to hear it. But I always thought that was very unique instead of making it a part of the album and a part of the moment of like, hey, engineer, turn my music up just to, just to further paint the picture that you're in the studio making an album. It felt more like a tailored live performance to me. And I just remember that part sticking out. So are there any songs that stand out to you now that didn't back then?
I feel like I never gave the food enough like credit.
Wait a minute. So on the Chappelle show,
right,
it was the food.
They performed the food.
They performed the food, and it was like it was in the kitchen.
Yeah.
I do remember. I remember it being in like a cafeteria kitchen or something. Like I do remember that.
Okay. Yeah. And so it was funny that they used that version on the album with like Dave Chappelle.
Right.
That was so cool how they did that.
It was.
But yeah, I feel like I didn't really appreciate it as much. One, because like the audio quality was so different. Like it just it took me out of the moment, I think. But two, just appreciating the actual lyrics, I didn't really appreciate it as much back then as I would say I probably do now. But most of the album, like, it's hard for me to like, and this also might be a little controversial, but The food was a safe choice, but the corner, I don't think I really appreciated the corner as much. I don't know if it was because it was just like so moody and like just the energy of it was so like dark and so intense. Like I used to be like, you know, I'm trying to get to the
right,
vibes, you know.
For sure.
But yeah, I think I appreciate that even more now as well, even though it kind of like stood out sonically.
For sure.
From everything else that was happening in that part of the album, I appreciate why the choice was made to start it that way after the intro, and really painting the picture, and kind of giving us that cold, that chill that Chicago was known for before it warmed us up with the rest of the album.
Can you pinpoint a time? Can you pinpoint what happened in your life for you to want to go back and listen to the corner and appreciate it more now than you did then?
I think just being grown and like
okay.
hearing music differently. And you know, sometimes you have to hear things repeatedly for you to really like listen and understand and appreciate. And I think with Common in particular, this album, like there were so many layers to it and there was so much culture embedded within it that at the time, like when I first heard it, I didn't know like who the Last Poets were, for example. I didn't know the Marvin Gaye song that was sampled, Love Is Seal. So it's like, you know, you really start to build out a broader worldview when you spend more time with like the music and what inspired it and like go into the catalogs of the people who were sampled and were, you know, part of creating that. But I think once I lived a little life, also immersed myself in more, I could go back and hear it and really appreciate it. And then even just like learning more about Chicago over the years as it kind of grew in popularity and got attention in different eras for different reasons, you know? I think even that, and then it eventually having its own show, gives you more perspective on what he was talking about in that song.
For sure. For sure. How did the album, or did the album change how you look at yourself?
I think it like I said before, it showed me, you know, that there was room in hip hop for me, if that makes sense. Like,
wow,
especially as a woman.
For sure.
Like, hip hop has been traditionally very harsh on women. You know, the ways that, besides like, you know, Tupac writing songs for like his mama and, you know, women on welfare, like that was that was pretty much all we had of like, oh, this is a nice tribute, appreciation. So I didn't know how to really be within hip hop as a woman who and well, I guess then I was a girl, I was a child, but like even still, like I knew back then that what I was being fed as like, this is all you are, this is all you're worth through media, it wasn't accurate. And I always gravitated to the balance that told a different story, like the Lauryn Hills and you know, even like the R&B artists I listened to, they were like pushing barriers, or they were kind of like more empowered, or, you know, just had a different perspective on relationships and being a woman. So like, this was one of the first times that I felt like I wasn't the joke, or like Black women weren't the joke. Like even, you know, Faithful, and, you know, when he said I was rolling around in my mind, it occurred, what if God was a her? Would I treat her the same? Would I still be running game on her? And what type of ways would I want her for her mind or a heavenly body? Couldn't be out here bogus with someone so godly. Like, that song, you know, as a young woman growing up in the world, in the city, you know, it did something for me. It did something for my spirit. And, you know, I didn't even know how I would evolve in terms of my spirituality and my view of myself, my view of the world at that point. But that planted a seed that continued to grow and, you know, blossom. So yeah, this album definitely changed my perception of myself and, you know, what it means to be a woman, to be a Black woman as well.
That's like, I kind of want to let that answer breathe because it needs to breathe. Yeah, that answer needs to breathe a little bit. That's dope. That's dope. I know. I mean, I can't speak from that because I'm not a woman. I'm not a Black woman, but I can say that you're absolutely correct as far as the image of women in media, especially what we were able to hear in hip hop. It was mostly negative things that were about women, and it wasn't until, for me, it wasn't until the Miseducation of Lauryn Hill that I, you know, well, that I noticed and that it stuck out, because we still had Queen Latifah, we still had MC Lyte, we still had Yo-Yo from what, you know, from the West Side, we still had we had Rage, we had, you know, we had those artists that were supported in hip hop as, you know, as strong hip hop artists. And I think it definitely wasn't until like Miseducation of Lauryn Hill. Like, I was young, but that I would play that album over and over and over again. And I think that the song Zion used to just sit on me all the time, because I could close my eyes and see the story that she was painting and really appreciate the strength of the decision to even have a child against odds of people telling you what to do with your life.
Right.
You know,
your career is over.
You know, your career is over. Choose, you know, pretty much like, you know, I think the line was, "Lauren, baby, use your head, but instead I chose to use my heart." It is, yeah, like for me, it was definitely the Miseducations of Lauryn Hill as far as that goes. But that's dope that B did that for you and that it planted a seed. That's cool as I don't know what.
And I think, well, I will say, even prior to B, you know, Common made The Light.
Yes, he did.
He made Come Close. So for me, it was something to hear a man speak positively about women, because even like the backpackers and so-called conscious niggas like would still talk crazy about women. So, and like the most they would get like to not being violent and horrible was like hypersexualizing them. So, you know, to have someone, you know, kind of like paint this picture of admiration and it not having to be a woman like defending our right to exist, or like, you know, saying, yes, we have value, or yes, we're more than, you know, we're more than just like, you know, here to like please you and like cook and clean for you, you know. So to have a man specifically, a Black man specifically, utilize his like platform and his voice to honor women. I'm trying to think who since Tupac, but then even he, you know, had his moment where he was like, fuck these bitches, but like, you know, I mean, he went through some things, but yeah, that was a very, that was a very unique experience in hip hop, I would say, that I really appreciated. So
For sure. For sure. Did anything about this album particularly, which you did touch on a little bit with Marvin Gaye and The Last Poets, but did something about, or did anything about B connect you to other music?
oh yeah. So yeah, definitely um so B, I would say it was, so okay. Even prior to that, um Tribe was probably the first like, okay, let me go back, let me listen to what this era was, and like go kind of go down this internet rabbit hole to find like everyone kind of associated with them. But with B in particular, I think it gave me a deeper appreciation for the Midwest. And the artists that came out of that region. Of course, you have Dilla, and his production is on here, so you kind of get into that world of Dilla, Slum Village, what they did. Then okay, what else has happened in Detroit? Black Milk, and so it's like you kind of start to paint this picture, and then of course you talked earlier about Chicago having an era around this time with Kanye and Lupe, Common all doing their thing around the same time. Yeah, there's just it I would say, like, even just good music around that time.
Good music as in just good music, or good music as in the label?
So good music, but also the label Good Music. Because that was like the MySpace era.
Yes, ma'am.
So I used to actually use MySpace to find other music. And so I'm like, all right, Kanye went and got Common, and he went and got John Legend, and even though Lupe wasn't good music per se, he was affiliated. So I was all right, this man has good taste. So who else is here that And so that's how I found out about like Big Sean and Kid Cudi, like before they had their major album debuts. And so yeah, it opened up this broader world of, like, essentially around that time, I remember making the decision, I don't want to listen to the radio anymore. This, like, what they're feeding us is trash. And like that was around the time that like local radio was like starting to not become a thing anymore. It was like everything was super syndicated. You had to play whatever the heck, and for whatever reason it was like ATL, like snap music, and different dances like narrated over beats. And then the superheroes battling with each other. It's like, okay, this is the best we can do. And so some of that, it had its place.
Sure.
But it also just felt like very silly. Like it felt like hip hop was being intentionally devalued around that time. And of course I didn't know about all the shifts that were happening in the music industry and how we were being steered towards the streaming era, and where like the actual purchasing of music was starting to no longer be a thing, and so they very carefully, craftily rolled that out, and steered us in that direction. But yeah, it just, once I made the decision, like I'm not rocking with this and what it feels like they're doing. It felt very sinister and very intentional, and I had a choice to make, basically. And like you said, it was like, okay, you can go with the backpack rap, the Def Poetry Jam type of vibe.
Yeah.
Or you can go with, I think they like me. I think they like.
Or you could do both.
Or you can do both, you know?
You can do both, which...
If you're a real nigga, you did both. But,
I did both.
But for me, and what I needed...
Makes to do it.
I mean, I knew all the dances, don't get me wrong. Like, I had to. But those were two different sides of myself. Like, I guess that was when, the kind of bipolarity of
Mm-hmm.
of like hip hop and music appreciation became a thing.
Mm-hmm.
Because it was like, if I want to access music with like lyricism and intention and soulfulness, and I have to go into this world. But then
Right.
if I want to just, party and be up on the latest trend and whatever, then I have to be over here. So
Right.
it's like I had to juggle
Yeah.
two different worlds at the same time. And around this time, that's also when you had, because it was, well, at first it was Napster. I was one of those kids that was like too afraid to mess around with Napster. I
Because
definitely missed that era.
so same here. It was too. I feel like the feds was on Napster.
Right, they used to threaten us with like the news stories of the kid who got caught,
like the feds showing up at your door. I was so scared of the feds showing up at my door to infiltrate my packet bell. What? Are you serious? I was so scared.
And then I remember the Proud Family had that episode. It was like Easy Jackster, and it was the nigga that looked like Sway Lee. Yo, that shit. So yeah, they had us like shook. But then when it was like Kazaa and then LimeWire,
yes.
it seemed like they weren't really like on you like that. So that was the other way that I would get to discover music, because I wasn't the kid that could just go to Circuit City or Best Buy and just like buy everything I wanted. Like I had to wait for Christmas, I had to wait for birthday money. Like I had to save up.
Yeah.
And, it was a conscious decision.
$14.99 was
exactly
hard to get.
It was a little penny. So and back then the minimum wage had to be, what was it, like $4.50, $4.75. So
and well, for us it was like $6.
No, like I remember my first job, it was a 4 point something on that check.
Really?
Yeah, because
what year was this?
Actually, I got my first job, I think, when I was 14. I think that was my first job.
What year was 05?
It had to be.
Okay, because I remember I worked at Panera Bread. I was making $6 an hour.
So maybe y'all weren't making minimum wage.
I think I'm about to say, I think they was robbing y'all.
Because I had that Baltimore City. Yeah,
they was
some of you for a job.
Yeah, I'm about to say.
And that shit said like 4.25, some shit like that. Yeah. But yeah, them little $200 after like a month of work.
Dog, yo, my goodness.
Yeah, yeah. So you had to really like. It was a decision to purchase music. Like you had to have confidence that this is not going to be a waste of my money.
For sure.
And so, because we had even though, people decry, oh, it's terrible, it's stealing, but it gave me exposure
for sure
to artists that I otherwise probably wouldn't have known about. So then when they had concerts, I would go to the concerts, or when they had an album come out, I would purchase the album. I would, I don't even know if I had merch money back then, but I would get my way to the concerts. That was when I remember like Rock the Bells, going to see Rock the Bells in Columbia, going to see Common at Sonar. I saw him a couple of times. And then didn't he do like Artscape one year or something like that? I feel like I remember he did Artscape one year.
I feel like he did. Like it was either Artscape or like Afram, one of the two.
For some reason, I think it was Artscape.
I feel
I'm like trying to picture the stage. Yeah. So, yeah, I just, I'm saying all that to say that it made me want to explore even more, and it made me want to dig my heels deeper. And some of the underground artists that weren't as popular, weren't charting, but were still making great music. It really gave me a better appreciation for that. And at that point, the algorithm was actually helpful, because like once you find out about one, then it will kind of steer you to the others that are similar.
Right.
And so, yeah, that definitely helped for sure.
What a time. What a time to be alive. For real. Do you still listen to this album today?
I do. I'll go back to it every so often. Not as much as I used to.
Right.
But like even this copy of it, I don't think this is not my first copy of this album. I might have. I'm trying to think the other one. I'm pretty sure the case was a little broken. I might have lost the cover. And I'm trying to think, did somebody steal? Yeah, okay. So someone might have actually stolen my original album.
Oh, we're gonna have to go into this story.
I had a copy of it that I put into my case.
Who stole your album? Let's say, should we say names? Are we saying names?
I don't know the name.
Okay.
But somebody in that computer lab. I hope that they enjoyed it in East Baltimore. With your trifling ass. Stole my damn album.
I'm sorry. So sorry.
But yeah, so I did not have the original after some point, but you know, I had burnt it. Well, I'm pretty sure I had uploaded it to like my iTunes, so I was able to burn a copy of it.
Sorry, Kanye.
And still use that. But I mean, I bought it.
Right.
Sorry for the nigga that took it didn't buy it. I did. So I had to do what I had to do.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah, once I got older, I went to Soundgarden, I'm pretty sure, and purchased this album with a few others for nostalgia's sake and to pay reparations to some of the artists I might not have bought. I might not have bought the album when it first came out. So.
For sure. No, it's all good. It's all good. If you were introducing this album to someone that never heard it and you wanted them to, you wanted them to listen to the album, which song would you introduce them to in order for them to be interested in the entire album?
I would just start from B. Like, I don't think I would need to pull out anything from the middle because it starts so beautifully.
It does.
And it ushers you into this journey, like, just listen from the beginning. And the fact that there is an album I can share with you that has that effect where you don't have to, like, skip or, you know, say, you know, this single or that single. Because also back then, people used to get over. They would have, like, one or two songs that were good, that were the singles, and then they would fill it with a bunch of fluff. And
that's true.
It was a hustle.
That's
but
true.
For the artists that really appreciated the craft of putting together an album, you know, this is one of the albums, like, if I want to introduce someone to hip hop, I would play this one.
Okay. All right. So y'all go into your computer, go into your store. If you are, you know, if you have a CD player, I would suggest that you get a record player and buy the actual album because there is something about the hissing, the pops, and the snaps inside of a 12-inch that is just really special to me. Like, I love a needle on a record.
And it works perfectly well for this. For
sure. For sure. So, y'all, please go get B by Common 2005. 2005, just not only get B, because B is the album that we're talking about today, but just do a little digging and find out what hip hop was doing in 2005 as far as the major albums that were coming out during that time. And not only just the ones that me and DJ Lovebaby are talking about, but also the snap and the dance ones as well. Like, go listen to those. I would say listen to those songs too.
Stream those. Stream those. Put them up on YouTube.
I mean, I would say I would pull them up on YouTube. Sure. Stream them, pull them up on YouTube, but somehow or some way.
About that album, because them brothers probably need.
I'm about to say, go get the album and go listen to them because 2005. I mean, it was just a year. It was just a really special year for. It was a special year for me, and I'm glad that it was a special year for you as well. Even though you were 14 and I was I was censor. Right. Censor. We're going to. I'm not. I don't even. Citizen. Right.
Matter of fact, you and Common are probably the same age.
Yo, she got all the jokes on this podcast.
I mean, hey, you kind of look like him now, if I'm being honest.
Yo, I get it. I definitely get it, especially when I cut all my hair off and I got the bald head. It's a, I can hear the bass line right now. I can hear the bass line right now. She said, you kind of look like him right now. It's all good. It's cool. It's true. I think I take it as a compliment. As a handsome brother.
He dressed for the occasion.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Coming, you're a handsome brother. You know what I mean? But we are going to wrap this up. I think that was a wonderful description and explanation of that album. And until next time, this has been the Digital Recipe with DJ Lovebaby and DJ Atlas.
Peace, peace.